Hobby. In this video, I am gluing the two wing halves of the Raven 1500, and there's a few steps that are very important. You only get one shot at this, so you got to make sure you do it right. The first thing is, as you can see, the covering over these holes, you need to remove it so it looks like this. Okay, better to do that now than have to try to futz with it later, because you're going to be putting these little circular pieces of wood into there. You're going to be stacking them up after the wing is dried and gluing them in place. So you want to make sure that you don't have any glue seeping in, because you're going to be gluing this surface here to the other half of the wing. And if you get glue in between here, you want to be able to clean that out during the gluing process so that you don't have to deal with that later and have to try to grind it out, because the glue is much stronger than the wood, and you're more likely to damage the wing than you are to get the glue out. Another thing that you want to do is you need to glue this spar in place. And now, as you can see, there's a little rod here. This is not in the kit. This is something that I did. If you look at the wing, there's a hole here and a hole here. I would suspect that those holes are part of the process of manufacturing and cutting these parts so that they're all the same size. You can't insert anything into this side because there's wood right behind it, so that's already filled, but this side is open through the wing. So to help make sure the wing is aligned properly, and just to provide a little bit of extra strength, it's negligible, but it does help keep things aligned properly, I cut a small piece of 2mm carbon fiber rod. You could probably substitute a piece of a toothpick. You may need to shave it down to size a little bit, or a small piece of dowel, or whatever. I had the carbon fiber rod, so I used that. And the amount that you see sticking out here is about as much as is on the inside. I glued that in place with CA glue at the same time I did this one, and I just followed the directions on this. You need to glue this piece here. To do that, you poke a small hole in the covering and use thin CA and squirt a few drops in there and lock that down. Now, what I did here is I used the thin CA to tack this in place, and there was a little bit of extra space. So I then held the wing vertically and dripped a little bit of gap filler CA in around the side of this, just to make sure that was well anchored. Not a big factor. The main function of this is strength in this direction. So even if it wasn't fully glued in, it's still going to provide that. But better to do things right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply glue to this surface. I'm going to slide the wings together. I'll probably put a little bit of glue on this spar so that when I slide it into place, it's glued in here. And then you flip the wing over, and you strap some tape strips along the bottom of the wing. Make those nice and tight. Then flip the wing back over, and you want to prop up the wing. I'm just using this. It's a battery, but some type of block or box that you can put under the wing once it's glued, so that it'll pull against the tape and hold these two surfaces together while they dry. Even though I'm using 15-minute epoxy, I will probably be leaving this undisturbed overnight to allow it to cure. It's always a good idea with stuff that's this important to give it the full 24-hour cure time before you move it, mess with it, put stress onto it. I wouldn't even remove the block for 24 hours. You want to make sure that that is fully together, because you're not going to get a second chance. And if it comes apart on you or it's not done right, you're going to have glue residue that you just can't get off. It would just be a bad situation, and it would only get worse as you tried to fix it. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up and get it glued, and I'll take some snapshots along the way. Now that everything is glued, I ran 3 straps of tape underneath the wing. Now, when I got the glue mixed and was ready to go, I peeled the tape that I was going to need, the 3 long lengths and then 2 shorter ones, and I flip over about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch to make a tab so it's easy to pull the tape off when everything is dry. After I did the 3 pieces of tape on the bottom and stretched them and tensioned them, I put these 2 pieces here that wrap from the underside over to the top on the leading edge and the trailing edge to help keep these lined up with each other during the drying process. That little peg also really helps keep everything lined up while it dries. This is the only area that I almost think is kind of sketchy. Just having that 1 piece of carbon. These are fairly aerobatic gliders, and the wing takes a lot of stress, and just having a glue joint, I would have liked to have seen a second spar. You know, also this spar I think would have been better if it had been centrally located on the main support spar of the wing itself. But you know, there's a lot of these out in the field. You know, they continue to build them. They haven't done a refined model, so obviously it holds up. So we'll see how that goes. I just see this as a potential weak point. Before the kit arrived, I was thinking about this. If this area right here had been sheeted from the trailing edge to the leading edge, I would have considered cutting off some covering and maybe laying a sheet of fiberglass, laminating some fiberglass cloth to help strengthen that. But I'm not sure that's going to be necessary. If down the road I have the opportunity to do so, for example, if I damage the wing and have to peel off a bunch of covering, and I'm going to be recovering it anyway, and I haven't had any problems yet, I might go ahead and uncover this and just lay a thin strip, maybe a couple layers of that carbon fiber material and a little bit of resin, just to enhance that. But the thing is that little bit of connection right there, there's not enough left to right space to provide any torsional strength. So other than keeping this joint together, I'm not sure there would be much of a benefit. So I'm just gonna do it the way it is, and we'll see where it goes. Now there's one last thing to be done. I put a little bit of glue at the end of this piece of carbon fiber here, and when I slid it in, I was hoping some of it would stay on the rod back to this end, but it may have just gotten wiped off in there. I did put a little bit inside the hole, and to try to make sure that this was as good a joint as possible, what I did was I applied glue to both surfaces, the left and the right sides, a thin coat, so that and I kind of rubbed it into the wood a little bit. This is, that's the advantage of working with the 15-minute epoxy for something like this, is you've got more time to work with it before it starts setting up. And rubbed it into the wood so they would be, a good as good a joint as possible. Push them together, wipe off the excess. It's good to have a couple of paper towels ready for doing that. And then I cleaned out these holes to make sure that, you know, because a little bit of glue seeped in, and just cleaned those out, and did the taping and wiped everything again, and have it propped up here, and here it will stay, and we'll get a look at that joint tomorrow. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. If you're building this airplane, I hope you're following along and gaining benefit from my experience. Please click like. Please subscribe. If you've subscribed, please click the little bell icon and you'll get notifications every time I put out a new video. Thanks for watching, and thank you for supporting my channel.